So Sunday, the 15th of March, I am out in my high-vis walking the dog and talking about education. On Friday, I said that I would be designing an app based on suggestions from people who listen and watch. I'm interested in taking all the suggestions and planning what I'm going to do. I got all the suggestions. There weren't that many and some were way too big for me to design in a weekend. But there was one which looks like something I could do. The purpose of doing this app is to show you how designing an app these days is very different to designing an app even last year or the year before, because you don't really need to know how to code anymore. Now, you do need a little bit of knowledge, not always. I'm going to show you what my process will be. Step one is while I'm out. That's why I'm walking the dog. The app is about identifying Irish words and what gender those words are, because Irish is a gendered language. Certain words are masculine or feminine nouns. This will be a quiz. I'll be back to show you how I'm going to design it. I'm going to be using two tools. One is just ChatGPT. I might use ChatGPT, I might use Gemini, and that's just to help me get the prompt that I want to make this work, to get flow of the program. And then secondly, I will be using an app that I like called Cursor. That's the programming side of things. I know a lot of people are starting to use Claude Code alongside Claude at the moment. I haven't jumped over there yet. I'm using generative AI to help me make the best prompt. Then we'll be moving on to Cursor to develop it. And with the purpose of this will just be to show you how we hone in the prompts when things go wrong. And then I'll show you what it will look like in the end. That's the plan. I am back here in my house after my walk. I wanted to start the plan for this app that we're going to develop. So I'm here on ChatGPT. I'm getting them to help me plan this. I want to create a simple web app, which is a quiz, masculine or feminine. And this is the important bit. I want to hit ChatGPT to take on the designer rather than the coding. The coding won't be done by them, but we're going to have a conversation. And I think what I find good about ChatGPT and others is the conversation part of it. I'm just going to hit enter. Let's see what it comes up with. So let's see what it comes up with. ChatGPT has basically given me a huge scope for what this would look like. Basically, to summarize it, it's very much we get a bank of 60 to 100 words. I'm going to stick to just 60 to 100 words. It's very simple. A word will come from the screen. The person will click whether it's masculine or feminine, and it will say if they're correct or not correct. One thing I like there, a slightly richer version, will give you some tips. So I think we might do that. We're going to have our screen, then you have your noun, the two answer buttons, a score, progress, some feedback, and then at the end we'll have our results screen. It's really simple. I'll let ChatGPT know from that feedback what I'd like to do. I'm going to type that up and we'll see what that looks like. This is the prompt that I've decided to use here. 100 common nouns is a good idea. I like the simplicity of it. Just click on whether its word is masculine or feminine. I really like the feedback. That's the thing that's going to teach something as well as quiz something. Keeping it simple. I want them to break down the job. We need those words. Before we do any programming, we need to know whether they're masculine or feminine. And we want to give a tip for each one. For each of the 100 nouns, you should prepare the Irish noun, whether it's gender, its English meaning on a tip. So each entry would look like a board for masculine, table, and tip. Many everyday nouns have to be learned individually, so it helps to memorize on board. Okay, it gives a couple of examples. What makes a good noun list useful? Tip should be very short. Find a noun fits a useful pattern. And when there's no obvious rule, it'll tell you that. Then it gives a bit of a content, and then it goes on to the next steps. The exact quiz flow, they want you to know step 3, step 4. So let's have a look through those. How many questions per round, how the feedback appears, what happens after step 3 will be to design the screens, what they look like, and then we write the programmer brief. Step 1 is the noun bank. Let's do that. What I like about ChatGPT is I could do that myself, but we are going to get ChatGPT to come up with them. It's suggesting to give 25 nouns. So I'm just going to say go. So it's going to generate 25. And if we're happy with them, we'll go with that. And it has a difficulty kind of thing as well. We can see quite a few, 25. They all look good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the 100 words and then we'll come back. I have my 100 words here. The next step is to put that into that a programmer will understand. Before we ask those questions, it's the first bit of programming. Let's save these 100 words into a format that a programmer will use. This will most likely be JSON, the JSON format. We'll just see what happens. It says there's a few duplicates. If I wasn't doing this very quickly, I would be checking, number one, for accuracy, because again, remember, we have so many hallucinations that can happen, and that's what I would do when I get my file. Secondly, if there's any duplicates, move those. I'm doing this quickly so you get the idea. So it's thinking away, and we will come back once it's figured it out. Okay, here we go. It says cleanest programming is JSON, and here is what JSON looks like. It's reformatting it here. Hopefully by the end of it, it will look a bit more like code. This is the output. It looks like JSON is a pseudo codey language where you've got the data in little frames or braces. Here it is. I'm going to redo that because that looks pretty horrible. We'll be able to download it. So let's have a look at that. I've just asked the question, can I download it? So we will see what it comes up with. So what it's done is it's created the JSON file. So we're just going to download that. I'm going to download that now. Hopefully that will download. And we'll go through each of those pretty quickly. How many questions in a game they recommend? How many now should be random? Should the round be randomized? Should a noun repeat in the same round? No. And should the player be able to play again immediately? Yes, with a fresh random set. So what I'm going to do is each section I'm going to put in. We already know the basic interaction. Now we need to decide when a child clicks, does it lock immediately? Yes. Now where I would disagree with it, I might put in, let's say I didn't want them to click the answer, does it lock immediately? I could say is no. I'll just show you the questions, what the feedback looks like, moving to the next question, score and progress, and the end screens, difficulty and modes. I'm probably just going to stick to one difficulty level, and the visual style. So it's asking what colors and things like that. It gives you recommendations, sound and animation, loads and loads of options. I'm going to go through all of those and I'll show you what it all looks like. There's a lot going on here for such a simple app. I've gone through each of the 12 sections they've suggested. I agree with basically everything they've asked for. The only question was around where this would be displayed. I think it's something for interactive whiteboards and laptops. Another aspect is that there is English language in this quiz. And again, this is something that I'm just going to allow for this particular quiz just to show it to you. But just for the purposes of demonstration, you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to hit enter and see what happens. So I'm hoping that it will now give me, so it basically agrees. We have an agreed flow, we have an agreed sort of thing, and on-screen, all the rest of it. The design, the results, the on-screen information. There's a lot of decisions for such a simple app. There's still a few questions here. What should the app title be? And what it's going to say then is it's going to give the brief. There we go. Excellent. We now have enough to produce the programming brief. So that is it. We're going to turn that into a single strong prompt for Cursor. Now you can use any tool that you want. Ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of the other tools. Replit is another popular one. I'm using Cursor. Here it is. It writes it out for us here. And I'm going to come back to you once it's there and show you what I'm going to do next. You're going to see what I'm showing you here is the JSON file that was created. The format of JSON is fairly easy for even a human to understand. You start off with these square brackets, braces, and then you have the data that you want. So you have an ID, Irish, gender, English. The second thing is I've put this into our folder, which we call gender quiz. And now what we're going to do is, this is Cursor. What I like about Cursor is it's where you can program, but it also has this thing called an agent mode, a planning mode, a debugging mode. We're going to use the agent mode, and it automatically chooses which coding helper that it uses. I'm just going to paste in what ChatGPT decided was the prompt. I'm going to change that prompt because it says this is the name of the file. I've just called it words.json, so I've called it words.json. And basically this is the prompt. It gives everything that we've said, but in a format that will make it easier for Cursor, the app, to understand. And again, just to remove that and make that JSON file. So very important to read over the prompt so you know what it is. So look, let's upload that, and Cursor starts thinking and preparing. So you can see it thinking away in the background, and it's decided its first bit. So it's created a to-do list for itself. It's creating the JSON file, which already exists, so it's sort of a waste of its time. But look, when it comes to this kind of vibe coding, as it's known, I'm not actually coding, I'm telling it what to do, then it does it. It moves on to step 2. It's creating an index.html file. This is the first page of any website. It's called index.html. It's moving on to create the CSS file, which is the style that makes it pretty. And then the final thing will be the actual JavaScript, which makes things interactive. So I'm going to let that happen as we go, and we'll be back to see what it creates. It took under a minute to create this quiz. It went through its to-do list and basically summarized what it did. It created 20 sample words. I don't think that's what we wanted. I had the 100 words already, so I will complain to Cursor that I already provided words. We've got the index file, the style, they're going to go with a green theme, and it creates a script file as well. I want to see on my screen where that looks like. We have called gender quiz here. There's the files. If you want to have a look at them, I'm going to make this a bit smaller so you can see. So it has the coding, it does all the coding for you. We have our words file. I just want to check whether they reduced that down to only 25. It seems to have 100 here. Actually, I think we're okay. Good. And then the style is also there. So it has all our color schemes. Now, one of the things, what you can do is if you don't like those colors, you can always change them. I'm going to keep everything as it is. I'm going to right click on index and open it in a live server to see what it looks like. Cursor does it. It pretends the website is hosted. And this is what it comes up with. This is what the game looks like to start off with. After all of that, we come up with the start game. So is Duras masculine or feminine? I'm not going to say whether I'm right or wrong. I'm going to go with feminine. No, I was wrong. It's masculine. There doesn't seem to be a rule on it. Let's go to the next question. Chlor. I'm going to go with feminine again. 0 out of 2. It's not great. It's something that needs to be learned. Ugh, let's go with masculine. I bet I'll be wrong. I've clicked masculine and it's paused. If I click feminine, something has gone wrong. And that's okay. We have a problem and we need to explain what the problem was. When I clicked the masculine button, the game crashed. I had inputted 2 incorrect answers before. It's going to look through the code to see what happens. It just goes through, let me have a look at the code, and it's going to see what's going on with it. This is just vibe coding really in action. So after it has a little think, we'll come back and see what it has to say. It took about a minute or two to think about that and gave some ideas. So I'm going to keep whatever it suggested. I noticed that we only have 20 words. I want to make sure that all 100 words are in the JSON file. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I'm going to make sure that happens. I hope it will. Just going to go thinking again to get all those things in. But look, we can fix all these things up as we go along because I think we have the original. And actually, what I might do instead is I'm going to stop it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the original file that I made in ChatGPT and copy it in here. Bear with me. So I've just made sure that I've copied all those files in so that they're all in here. Okay. Let's see what it all looks like now. Right clicking on, let's get back to the file that we're supposed to be on and we'll refresh it because we need all the words. And we're going to start the game and see what happens. We've got the word oich. I'm going to go with feminine. I am correct. Next question, Cauca. I'm pretty sure Cauca is masculine. Yeah. Next question, Chach. Feminine? No. I'm not very good at this. Train, masculine? No, it's feminine. Feminine? Yes. As you can see, a B, so Bach. Let's go with feminine. Yes. It seems to be working quite nice. We'll go with where, yeah. Shakta is masculine. Coffee is masculine. I think Ban is feminine. It's Colleen that's masculine. Isn't that right? Yes. The tip isn't great. We're going to change those tips. We can do that in ChatGPT, I think. Final question is far, and I think that's definitely masculine. It says next question, and it gives us good work, keep practicing. It's pretty simple. The tips are terrible. We can go back to ChatGPT and ask them to make the tips better, following grammatical rules. Okay, so we're back on ChatGPT. I'm looking at the JSON file. The tips aren't very useful, and we need the tip to tell the user why the word is masculine or feminine. I give them an example of what happens if there are no rules, and then we redo that file. So what we're going to do is let ChatGPT mess around with that and see what happens. It's probably going to take about 30 seconds to 45 seconds. So rather than you watching me watch the screen, let's pause. This is what has happened. We're going to download the JSON file. What it's done is tell me what it's create simple patterns where there's no rule. And basically that they're cautious because obviously there's exceptions to every rules. And let's pick Kyacht as masculine. So you can see straight away There's no ending rule here. This is one to learn. Irish speakers will probably tell me there isn't a rule for that one. Bow, so a cow. Now we know the cows are female, aren't we? In English, it's the same in Irish. Lung, which is a boat or a ship, isn't it? Aren't all ships feminine in... They are. There's no simple real ending. All the ones I'm going with here are not so useful. If I play again, it's not really going to give me any help here. What I need to do is I need to be better in terms of what it's doing. So I'm going to have to really push ChatGPT. You need to delve deeper into the rules to find out why a word is masculine or feminine. So I finally I had an argument with ChatGPT. It kept giving me words and rules that weren't that great. So I was specific in the end. I said, let's start again with our words. I want 100 words which have rules around gender, so it makes it easier. So it suggested, should I have 10 words that ends in that are masculine, broad consonant sound. And if I scroll down a little bit, we'll see Irish broad consonant sounds. And we go further down and we've got og and og, which is usually feminine. Slender vowel sounds often feminine. So if we go to the actual app, here we go. Let's refresh this and we can play the game. And I think what we have is a completed game here. So we know that's a long vowel. Now I should remember my rules. No, I was wrong. Words ending in oon are usually masculine. So Fun shog, I think if I remember that was feminine. Yes, because ending in og is usually feminine. So you get the idea there, and we can see from these that you will get to learn whether some of the rules that would make a noun masculine or feminine. The last job is to upload this tool onto the website. I'll put the link at the bottom of the video. There's different places where you can host this stuff for free. I'll add a link to a few options. Vercel is the one I'm thinking of. Vercel is a place where you can host simple websites like this online. Thank you again to everyone for suggesting an app that I could make to teach something of Gaeilge. I just wanted to show you how you can do this with this concept called vibe coding, how it isn't that difficult. I thought I'd give you a bit of flavor, what you can do. I wanted to show you the mistakes that can be made, because I think when you watch these videos, often the person who's done it has perfected. This is me doing this live, making loads of mistakes, but then coming back and coming up with a reasonably easy app that could be used in your classroom. I think I'd like to be able to get the user to add word lists. So at the moment, it's just the 100 words I've chosen. There were actual word lists I could load in that same JSON format. You could load the one that you want to teach in your class. Depends what you really want. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope it's been of use to you. We might take another during another break. Anyway, we will chat again soon. Bye bye.